the race and a half. Like I did the math. He led like 80-some percent.
Oh yeah.
Well, let me do the math again. What was it? 248 divided by 239. 93. Yeah, 85% of the race.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into NASCAR by the Numbers. Joining the discussion here, we're a little bit of foreshadowing to what we'll talk about here in just a little while when we get into Darlington and what the race weekend was. But first, it's been a week since we've seen each other, talked to each other. Actually, we talked to each other about 30 minutes ago. But Armany, what's been up? How's the week been?
Week's been good, just chilling, Hopefully a little more close. Hopefully gonna have a little closer battle for the lead on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm eating whatever this pineapple dole thing is. It's pretty sweet, pretty good. Armani apparently had some loaded fries today. I just had loaded potato wedges, so not too bad of a day. And Armani is going to his first dirt track race this weekend, local dirt track racing, Hendry County Speedway. Have no clue where that's at. I'm assuming in Florida. Obviously, I work at two dirt tracks, so it's become normal for me. So are you excited to go dirt track racing? What do you expect to see, kind of different than usual?
The number one thing I'm excited for is to figure out what the hell is a gladiator.
There is a division there, apparently, that is called Gladiators, which is badass.
Yeah. I'm excited. How perfect is it that the Florida Dirt Series is the one with the unique?
First of all, they all have across the country has unique names. There's
the Gladiator,
front-wheel drive cars. Some places call them Hornets. The favorite division in my Lawrence County Speedway is called Thunder Bomber, which is like stocks. Badass. My favorite car is Thunder Bombers. But anyways, killer. But anyways, can't get too distracted. Just a quick preview of what the show's going to be. We're going to talk about Darlington, a little bit about that race and review that race. We're going to go on the Dover preview, kind of give you your top 5 guys to look for in terms of average finish, past winners. Obviously, make race-winning picks because we have to do that. They don't pay us no dollars at all to not make picks. So we got to at least make – I think we've been wrong pretty much every week this year. But
I don't know if I got a race-win pick right. I don't think so.
Then, 2 talking discussion points of the night. Horsepower. We're going to talk about the horsepower. Obviously, we had the 750 horsepower at Darlington. We'll talk a little bit about that probably a couple of times tonight. And we'll kind of debate the 550, 750 deal. And then we'll finish up talking about Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, which is been in the news as of this week. A lot of crazy things were said. We'll save. Armani plans on ranting. I don't know where my emotions will be. 30 minutes.
I don't plan on ranting. I plan on roasting.
I don't know where my emotions will be 30 minutes now. But, yeah, we will go. So first, let's start it off. Darlington Raceway, the Goodyear 400 throwback weekend. First, before we even get into it, were there any throwbacks that you saw on track that that impressed you more seeing them on track than maybe just the pictures?
Probably just bias, but seeing it on track, I really like the Larson's number 5 car. Just seeing the colors, the white, the blue, I think the red, I think there was a little bit of yellow in it. Also, just seeing it in not in person, on TV, on track, it just made it pop a lot more. Probably because it was the only car that actually had a shot at competing with Truex. Which, why does it feel like it is always the most boring cars with the most boring paint schemes that go out and win Darlington?
Darlington's more of a finesse driver, best of a real driver's track. And some teams, I don't know, some teams just don't put the flair in it. If you look at the winner, by the way, top 5 from the race we were going to look at. Actually, I won't even get there yet. I agree with that. Martin Truex Jr. goes out. I didn't really consider him to have a throwback car. I didn't really like Larson's. I didn't know what it was really throwing back to. I know it was one of his first cars, I believe. It kind of seemed like it's a throwback because you told me it was a throwback, not because I know it's a throwback. So I don't know. Maybe you have that. I'm trying to think of any of them that I really saw that I really liked in person because I missed a huge chunk of the race. I'm not going to lie. I fell asleep after being out late, back-to-back nights super late. And then when I woke back up, still in stage 2, my internet decided to crap the bed for forever. Luckily, caught the last 80 laps on Susie's phone. So I was able to do that. I'm trying to think because so really when I watched the race was the last part with Truex. I really only got to watch Truex and Larson kind of battle it out there. So trying to think if there's any that popped out to me. Maybe I watched the Xfinity race. Justin Allgaier's throwback, I was more impressed with watching it race than just the edits of it. I think also the same for Josh Berry. I thought his throwback was pretty damn cool. So I don't know. There was a handful of them. Xfinity race I pretty much watched all of. Got Matt in here with us. What's going on, Matt? Our Canadian friend. But let's get into it.
You know what my favorite throwback was?
What?
Kurt Busch throwback to his Las Vegas win last year. Truly inspirational.
Actually, I'll give you my favorite throwback here in just a minute. But look at it. Good at it. Goodyear 400, top 5. Martin Truex Jr. dominates the race. Kyle Larson finishes second. Shocker there. Kyle Busch finishes third. Fourth, William Byron. And fifth, Denny Hamlin. So before we get to, I know part of things that you want to talk about, Martin Truex Jr. goes out and dominates, which I've thought about it. I'm not ready to fully eat crow, but I might be getting there. I remember that I told myself that he would not be the same with James Small as he ever was with Cole Pearn. Right now, Martin Truex Jr. looks pretty damn good. I still am not going to say that James Small is Cole Pearn by any means. I think Cole Pearn was a top 3 crew chief when he left. But the team's already won 3 races. They're the only multi-winner this year. Obviously, now they have 3 wins, 3 different tracks, obviously. Short tracks, which has always kind of been an Achilles heel of Truex. Now he goes out and wins Darlington for the first time. So Martin's looking good, looking really good. Right now, you'd have to probably say the favorites are him and Denny Hamlin for the championship. So what say you? What do you think about Truex dominate? I've seen Truex dominate. I was at the 600 when he led all but 8 laps. I've seen it happen before. What say you? What are your thoughts on Martin Truex Jr. having 3 wins?
He was my championship pick at the start of the season, so I mean it's kind of fun to see my championship pick doing pretty well. So hey, that's true anyway. So but I don't know, I just found it hilarious. We talked about it before, but I just found it hilarious how everyone was like, oh, the 750 package, which we'll get to later, how everyone was like, oh, this is gonna be obviously, we knew there were going to be a lot of driver finesse involved. Like, oh, they're going to be side by side. It's going to be a very competitive race. And then Truex goes out, leads like 85% of the race, has like a 15-second lead at the end of stage 2, 9 cars on the lead lap. I mean, even though Larson did give him a run for his money at the end. Though, and I'll say this, Larson, that's how you have a 15-second gap at the end of stage 2, and you still win the race. All right? Just take notes on that.
Matt said his favorite throwback was Noah Gregson's throwback to his Daytona win with Black Rifle Bass Pro Shops. Or that looked identical. My favorite throwback of the weekend was watching Kyle Larson finish second. So that was my favorite.
How you said a throwback?
I know that's my favorite throwback moment is Kyle Larson finishing second. Because I think you said before the podcast that it was like the 24th time it's ever happened. So shocker there. No, but this one, you have those second place finishes where we've talked about where Larson was the best car. Why did you lose this race? That was not this case. Truex was the class of the field. I kind of praise Kyle Larson because without him, he's the only thing that made the end of that race interesting from a race winning perspective. Charged hard, gained a lot of time. I mean, got within 3 feet of Martin Truex Jr.'s bumper. Really thought maybe he should be more aggressive there. It almost seemed like he sort of settled in for a few laps, and I think that really cost him the race because he had used up his stuff. So I felt like if he's going to do it, he's got to just go now. You can't settle back and then hope you get another shot at him because he used this stuff up. Martin Truex Jr. kind of played him a little bit. I think he played everybody. Even the spotters were talking about it. Truex gets caught, and then next thing you know, Truex is gone. So I think Truex was sort of saving his stuff. He even said on the radio, is that him? He had no clue Kyle Larson had caught him. So I think Truex was sort of saving his stuff. And then when it was go time, he took care of business. Larson never got back that close to him again without some lap traffic. And he never got that close to him again. I think the closest he got to him then was 2 car lengths after that. So not a bad second place finish. Larson made it exciting. He shouldn't have won that race. Truex deservingly won that race. But Kyle Larson finishing second is definitely something we can get used to, kind of a tradition around here, I guess. So, it is what it is. Any other thoughts on the race?
For wins.
Any other thoughts on the race?
I mean, there's not that much to talk about for the race. I mean, we could still talk about, like how Stuart Haas is, just completely turned into a dumpster fire. But I mean, that's kind of been happening all season, which kind of sucked. I really like Cole Custer's Mother's Day scheme, so those kind of sucked to see that car.
Rola's paint scheme was literally, quite literally, fire. All right. My favorite paint scheme was Eric Almirola's. It looked amazing. The Flame Wind Dixie car that Mark Martin used to run, and he completely wads it up in stage 1, like on lap 7. I can't remember how early it was in the race, but I really thought the race was about to be a classic. I know there was a big debate. Again, I missed a big portion of it. We could talk about this a little bit. There was a big debate. The NASCAR purists were like, "This is an amazing race," and it sort of was a classic Darlington race. Like you felt like you were watching a Darlington race from 10 years ago. We'll get into more of this later, but the cars were slipping and sliding. You could tell they were having a handful with the cars, which is what you want to see with the higher horsepower, the smaller spoiler. You could tell the cars were a handful, which is what you want, especially at Darlington. And Truex just flat out there and whooped them. That's just kind of how it is. Have there been more entertaining races? Obviously, I don't know if anything will ever beat 2011 with the craziness that was that night. Kyle Busch versus Kevin Harvick. Regan Smith wins the race. I don't know if you'll ever top a night like that. That's kind of the barn burner night that you live for. That it's happened, once or twice a year. But I don't think it was a bad race. Again, I can't speak a ton on it because I missed a huge chunk of the race. It seems like it was sort of rough. I know the last final stage had no cautions or nothing. I don't think it's up for debate whether it was a good race or not, but I'm just glad the cars were a little bit out of control.
Yeah, I think we got the same idea.
Yeah. So, obviously heading towards this weekend, we go to Dover, another place where the bigger motors, smaller spoiler are kind of coming to effect. People are hoping. I don't know if this is the same package we had there last year, but people are sort of hoping maybe this will kind of reinvigorate Dover a little bit. We did run at Dover 3 times last year. We had a doubleheader weekend there. Actually, no. Yeah, I think it was 3 times. I don't remember.
No, it wasn't in the playoffs.
So maybe it was twice, but it was a doubleheader on the same weekend. Maybe that's what it was. So, looking at your top 5 average finishes, now this is from 2018 to now. So this is really the last couple of years encompassing this package, all of that kind of thing. Kevin Harvick sits on top of the charts with a 3.33 average finish. This covers 6 starts. Martin Truex Jr. with a 4.33. Kyle Larson, 6.5. Denny Hamlin, 9.17. And Brad Keselowski with a 10.0. Those are your top 5 average finishes heading in. Your last few winners, really, I just went ahead and went back through 2018. So your last 6 winners, Harvick, Hamlin, Larson, Truex, Elliott, and Harvick. Those have been your last few winners at Dover. So what say you? What are you looking forward to this race? Obviously, this used to be a big place for Jimmy Johnson whenever he was still racing. You could always kind of circle him as a guy that could maybe go out and win. What say you? You don't have Jimmy in the field anymore. What do you expect to happen this weekend, and who are you keeping your eye on?
Ever since 2017, it didn't matter if Jimmy was in the field or not. Let's be honest here.
Facts.
I think we're going to be seeing something very similar to what we saw last year. Probably similar to Darlington. Maybe, you're going to see the drivers have a lot of finesse. Maybe not as much finesse as Darlington, but you're going to see a lot of finesse, with the driver's skill. That thing's going to be very similar to a Darlington race. Just things going to be a traditional Dover race. Nothing special, nothing crazy. I mean, it's just how usually Dover plays out. We really haven't had a classic Dover race in a while. It's just going to be, I think, an average Dover race. We had the same package last year, so.
That's true. Dover's a place you have a lot of respect for. It's bad, fast, but I just feel like it's kind of lost its stink, I guess. Dover used to be a place that you kind of were a little nervous to go to. Turn 2 was very treacherous. You almost had a big wreck there every other year. I remember there's been 8-10 car wrecks coming off that corner before. Haven't really had that in a long time. I want to shout out to Racetrack Ricky. His name's Justin, but he did a victory lane interview at Lawrence County Speedway last week because the driver of the car had a birthday party at midnight. How that happens, I have no clue. But did a great job. He's watching with us. He did a great job, did an awesome job in the interview. So, but Dover just doesn't seem to have that aggressiveness that it used to. It doesn't seem to be the monster anymore. It kind of seems to be the mild mile at this point. But maybe we'll see a really good race. Maybe we'll see some craziness there. Still really, really bad fast. You still got to have a lot of cojones fly around there like the way it is. And we'll see. So who are you looking at? Who are you thinking about? Who you got a feeling about? Who's going to win this weekend?
I think it's going to be the same people up front. Truex is going to be bad fast. Hamlin going to be bad fast. Larson going to be bad fast. Keep an eye out for Harvick. I mean, he's obviously, you said he's got a 3.3 average finish, but obviously SHR has been very, just downright awful this year. So see if, he can make his way up through the field. Also, I'd say Chase Elliott, this will be a good place to see, that 9 team has been fairly mediocre, for lack of a better term. They've been consistently like a 10th, 11th place car. They need to get better. He's got a win here. So, yeah, it finished 7th. Wow. Congratulations. Feels like where he's always finishing nowadays. So,
with a championship.
Yeah. That's what still shocks me. Anyway, so this will be a good place to see, that team can finally turn it around. If they can, finally look like they actually could put a race-winning car together for once this year. So my pick to win the race is Sir Dennis the Menace, Denny Hamlin. He's finally going to get himself a dub this year after like 30,000 runner-up finishes this year and leading like 20,000 laps.
All right. Okay. This year, it's kind of been a weird year. Not really what you would expect, but in 12 starts, still has 4 top 5s, 9 top 10s, which most drivers would still give a lot of money for and wish they could have this kind of season going. 9.3 average finish. Kind of regretting taking this pick to an extent because I really think Truex is going to be hard to beat. He has the second best average finish, and he's just hot right now. His last 3 finishes this season are 4th, 2nd, and 6th. That is, Mr. Kevin Harvick is going to seriously take a win for Stewart-Haas Racing. That still makes me very nervous. But this is the kind of a place where recently Harvick in his last 6 starts has a 3rd-place average finish here. They cannot put together a solid run here. This is when you really start kind of getting nervous. They're going to probably make the playoffs. That's fine. But you really start questioning, are they going to win a race this year if they struggle at Dover? So we will see. Kevin Harvick will be my pick for this week, and we'll roll on with it. And he'll make it a 3rd-place finish. He'll make it even a better average finish.
Well, the rest of SHR finishes outside the top 30.
Most likely. But I will say I do think Truex is going to be hard to beat. I don't think Denny Hamlin's a bad pick. So we will see what happens there. So let's get into a little bit of fun. Obviously, we kind of hit on it a minute ago. One of the big things about Darlington was, the big motor, small blade, in a sense. We had the higher horsepower, the 750 package. We had the smaller spoiler, and it really created. It felt like it put back the car control in the driver's hands. Cars were slipping and sliding. Guys were getting up in the wall. So this kind of discussion is going to sit there and talk a little bit about Darlington, but mainly just in general. We have the 550 horsepower with the bigger spoiler. We have the 750 with a smaller spoiler. What are your thoughts on those? What do you think NASCAR should be going with for the future?
I think NASCAR needs to go for more. Here's the thing. Yeah, obviously, like the size of the spoiler, the horsepower, it does contribute a lot. But we've seen it, even with 550 horsepower, 750 horsepower. There's just a lot of duds. And I think that's a car problem. Obviously, with the Gen 6, it's produced a lot of just bad racing because of the amount of aerodynamics it requires with the side force and how this, everything flares out. And, I mean, that's why NASCAR went for the 550 horsepower package because they're like, okay, I mean, they tried 900 horsepower with big spoilers, medium spoilers, 750, nothing worked. So NASCAR was just trying to find anything to, salvage whatever they got at this car and just try to make the racing closer. So, I mean, in my opinion, it matters, but you need to find, a happy medium. In terms of horsepower, I believe the problem isn't necessarily a 550 horsepower itself. It's the fact that these engines can produce 900 horsepower, but you're restricting it to 550. If you were to have a 550 horsepower engine, I think that the product would be a lot better than as opposed to having a 900 horsepower engine restricted to 550.
Part of that even if it doesn't necessarily affect the product, I think it's just we know what the engines are capable of, and it feels like you're just purposely, which they are, holding them back. And it's like, just let the engines run free. People want to see speed. At the end of the day, this Gen 6 car has been a waste of time. It has been a complete failure. The racing has not been incredible. We've had to come up with, if I have to keep hearing the word package, we've had to come up with so many packages just to try to put a half-ass race together. And it has been, I mean, it's just been a joke. This has made, everyone crapped on the car of tomorrow forever. But this makes the car of tomorrow look like a great plan. The car of tomorrow aesthetically looks terrible. It had some of the best racing we have seen in the last 20 years, especially the generation just after, really the generation and a half just after the car of tomorrow, where they pretty much took the wing off and just put the spoiler back on. Great racing. Cars were slipping and sliding. They could race each other. They could catch each other. They could run side by side. And then they came out with this model, and it has just gotten terrible. And, we've all seen it. We've seen it time and time again. Kevin Harvick battling Joey Logano at Kansas last year, where it clearly has the faster car, 100% has the fastest car, and just gets blocked for laps on end. There's nothing he can do. In terms of just horsepower, I want as much horsepower as you can get. If you can get 1,000 horsepower in these things, let them run at 1,000 horsepower. Take the damn spoiler off the car. If you got to have a spoiler, make it about this big. All right? Whatever you got to do. These should be the hardest stock cars in the planet to drive, because that's what NASCAR is, the National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing. And now race cars aren't stock that much anymore. But if you're going to call this a stock car, we know what a difference is a stock car and a sports car is. It's an F1, this is an Indy car. Make these the hardest cars to drive. They're on the planet. Make them big, heavy, fast, all over the place, because that's what NASCAR was based on. We're going to take these heavy-ass cars. We're going to put a motor that has no business being in it, and we're just going to freaking floor it, and we're going to hope it sticks. I mean, that's what NASCAR, that's what made it famous. That's what made it popular. You could beat, you could bang, you could go and catch people and do this and do that, and we don't really have that anymore. It's not F1 by any means, because you see a lot of passes through the field, but when you get to the up front, passing is fun and great and all this stuff, but what's it matter if you can't pass for the win? What's it matter if the guy in second can't catch the leader and make it worth a damn? So more horsepower. I think, the 550 horsepower has been a dud. It just has been. I remember the first All-Star race. I was there. It was badass then. I don't know what they ran in that All-Star race. That was fun. It was rigged, but it was fun. And I think they still changed it from that. That sort of Bubba Wallace won a stage at one point, the second year with that package. So it's like, I don't know. They manipulate it. They change it. They do this and that. The sport's never going to be, you're not going to have front row winning every single week. You're not going to have Richard Petty Motorsports winning 5 races a year. You're still going to have the best be the best. Give them a damn car that can race, that puts it back in the driver's hands, that makes it fly all over. The car's fast, but it's all over the place. You got to slow it down to make it turn. You got to finesse the corners. That's what used to make stock car racing a lot of fun. And these packages have sort of ruined that. And I never want to hear 550 again. I know there's still a handful of 550 races this year. I hope we can find a steady package next year where they give them a bunch of horsepower all year long. I'm sure that probably won't happen. But that's what I'm hoping for, and give them as much freaking horsepower as they can provide.
Like I said, I agree with that. I don't think NASCAR's never going to get to 1,000, that kind of horsepower, because as much as we hate it, the manufacturers don't really want it. If it is going to, it's going to have to come through some sort of hybrid system where electrification gives it a little extra horsepower. My happy medium would be somewhere in the realm of like 600 to 700, 750 horsepower, but make sure it's an actual engine that's built for it, and not, like you said, like 1,000 horsepower engine and then just restricting it.
And listen, and to a fair point, that's part of the reason that we're not going to get that, is because the manufacturers, specifically Toyota and any other foreign manufacturers that come in, Chevrolet and Ford have all produced engines that have that kind of horsepower. We've seen them. They have street legal versions of cars with huge horsepower. Toyota does not. Even the Lexus does not. Even their sport vehicles do not match what Chevy and Ford have been able to do. So they try to keep the car model. You're never going to have a Camry with 900 horsepower. And that's part of it. And to me, we need to get out of that mindset. Like, if you're going to be here, let's be here. Make this Toyota racing development, make it sport, and like show people we have the technology to provide a 900 horsepower engine. Maybe one day we're going to put it in a street car or do whatever you want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired of being restricted because manufacturers, because Kia doesn't have a motor with big horsepower. Okay, well, Kia also doesn't make stock cars. The cars don't even, they do look like street versions, but they don't. We know there's a difference between a stock car and a street version you get in. Hell, one has one seat, the other has four. Already we're starting off with major differences. People this isn't wrestling where we're trying to convince them. People know. They know that a Cup Series Ford Mustang is not the same as one you buy off the lot. So, but I agree with you. Especially if we know the motor can do what it can do, why the hell are we restricting it? It just sounds stupid that what we're doing. But who knows? Maybe one day we'll get there. We can cross our fingers. I'd love to go back to the days with big motors and the car is hard to drive. But, we can only do that and hope for that for so long. So, going to the last topic of the night. This one was fun. There was a lot of commentary over it. Armany had some feelings about this. I've had feelings about this. So, I don't remember what night. Maybe it was Monday or Tuesday, but they had a big community meeting about Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. Obviously, if you've been familiar, NASCAR is trying to go to Nashville Fairgrounds. It's been since the early 1900s. That track has been there. It's home to local racing series and traveling series from time to time. I believe NASCAR did run there back in the day, but it's been decades. NASCAR's trying to come back, add more short tracks, add another market. They're really trying to saturate the Nashville market. And there are some legit concerns with it. There's been a lot of progress really the last 6 months. It looked like a big no for forever, but there's been a lot of progress. There are some legitimate concerns like parking and stuff like that to contain a large amount of people. But this week they had a town hall. People that were pro having the track or NASCAR come to the track, people that were against it. Some of the comments were a little wild. Some of them were a little out there. So, Armany, I'll let you start. What say you? You can kind of fill the people in on some of the comments that were said and what your thoughts are.
All I'm going to say, I'm going to start off with this. Me and you got to get some tickets to one of the Formula One tracks out in Nashville. We got to go.
We got to go. I didn't know that Formula One was that close. I thought it was in Austin. I think they brought it down to where I'm at in Miami. I didn't know they got it in Nashville, too. We got to go to this. We have one this close. I didn't realize we had one this close here in the South. But, yeah, the one woman commented that there were 5 functioning NASCAR tracks and Formula One tracks just 30 miles outside of Nashville. Which, folks, if you keep track of these things, there's not. Nashville has 2 tracks, the Fairgrounds, which, again, is technically not a NASCAR track right now, and Nashville Super Speedway, which we'll be going to, which is way out of Nashville from what I've heard. It's middle of damn nowhere. The closest Formula One track is in Austin, Texas. She's probably thinking about either indoor or outdoor go-kart tracks, which is nowhere near the same thing. Pretty wild. This same woman, it rattles her house and scares her dog. And it was she said it was insulting to even mention that this should happen. Some of the common, really, it's really weird. It's a complicated situation. I really recommend people to listen to the Dale Jr. download. Dale Jr. is obviously kind of on the board helping these things. Big advocate to go back. He's really pushing hard for this. I want to let you rant first before we kind of level-headed this thing out. So everything that's on your chest, I want you to get off your chest.
What annoys me is just the amount of – it just shows that these people don't know what they're talking about. They're speaking out of their ass. They just don't know. I've never seen so much hatred for just one idea in my life. Like, let's go through some of the things that they complain about. They're talking about the noise. They're talking about, it's going to be noisy around a racetrack. The track has been there since 1904. I don't know any of these people, but I'm willing to bet a good chunk of money that none of them were born in 1904. So why are you moving to a neighborhood that has a track there, and then you're going to complain about it? I'd say, you know what, I'm going to say it now, but I had a tweet for you to put out. I had a quote for you. It's like people moving to Nashville, people moving next to the fairground, they complain about the fairgrounds, is like Bristol turning itself into a dirt track and then saying, why don't we go to other tracks? It just makes no sense on that front. So if you know you're going to be near a track, you should expect there to be noise. Same way if you live right next to a highway like 75, you should expect a lot of noise and you shouldn't be complaining about it, first of all. Second of all, why does she get 5 Formula One? I don't think Formula One's ever raced in Nashville, ever. So, again, she probably talking about some local go-kart track, which, I mean, I guess that's not part of the Formula One calendar. They're adding like 23, 24 races anyway. Might as well add your local K1 speed there. Lewis Hamilton could lead all 27 laps of that race. So, that I don't understand. It's like, where are you getting this from? It's like just the number one thing that just frustrates me is just these people don't care. Like a lot of these people, there are some genuine concerns, like parking. That's a genuine concern. What are you going to do with parking? Are you going to, try to, collaborate the park with like an MLS stadium, maybe with, where the Tennessee Titans play? So, but just these people that just have no information, they just speak out of their ass, and then they just don't want the track, and they're just like, oh, I'm going to say whatever the hell I want for Elvin. I know, like, I heard you weren't allowed to, but I really wish there were people that you were allowed to just call out those people who like just speak this nonsense and kind of just shut them up. Because these people, honestly, like, if you don't have the information, you're just going to speak out of your ass. Don't even bother.
There is a truth that it doesn't help bash the neighbors, because at the end of the day, you're stubbing your own toe. You're shooting your own foot at that point. But it's sort of like when you talk to people about politics. Now, I'm not the smartest people political-wise. You're not the smartest person political-wise. But me and you, compared to some others, it seems like we would know a lot compared to others, and we're not even very researched. And, you run into this politics a lot. Whether we agree or disagree, you bring up fair points, I'm going to listen. Maybe you can even change my mind with fair points. But when you come up with things that people who are not even around the situation closely understand are not true, you lose the momentum that you would have or any validity you would have to persuade somebody or to get a point across. If these people were to come out here and say, we know that there's this many races per year already. I've had this experience with this, and a real experience, not it shakes my house and it scares my dog. Because and a lot of this is obviously it's hearsay. You're just saying what you feel. And there's a reason witness candidates, even in trials, are hard to trust sometimes, because the mind thinks one thing, or especially if you feel a certain way, you're going to say you feel a certain way or something happens. That's what's frustrating is you hear these crazy comments about there's 5 F1 and NASCAR tracks within 20 miles of here. Very much not true. Now, if you want to sit there and a realistic concern would be the soccer, they build a soccer stadium here and it's done nothing for the community. It's caused a ruckus. Those are legitimate concerns. Where the hell are you going to park 30, 40,000 people? Legitimate concerns. Something to really talk about and really have to come up with an answer. Noise, to an extent, can be a concern, but at the same time, it's like I just tweeted out. That's like me moving to downtown Nashville and complaining about country music, the home of country music. And I'm tired. Why does everywhere I drive there's country music in Nashville, where everyone goes to sign a record label? You don't listen. Maybe the realtor didn't tell you about a racetrack, but there's certain places you have to do your own research. It's not like there's no way when you bought a home, either you just didn't check or just nobody told you there was a racetrack. At that point, it was up to you to check. That's on you. I can't. If I were to move next to a prison, a federal prison, and every night I can't go to sleep because I'm nervous something's going to happen, that's on me because I moved next to a federal prison. You know what I mean? You can't blame the prison until the prison it needs to move and shut down. And here's the point where this is where I really wish people would listen to the Dale Jr. download. So I didn't even know this until I listened to the download. And I'm assuming all this is true. Dale Jr. has been very into this situation. I would assume Dale's only going to set out things that are factual. So I didn't realize, but Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway was designated as a historical site. If people know anything about historical sites, you cannot destroy them. That racetrack is going to be there in operation regardless if NASCAR is there or not. So if the people would realize this, they already hate the Speedway as it exists, right? They're complaining about what is already happening because you can't really complain about the future because you don't know what that holds. They're complaining about what already happens. There's already too much noise. There's too much of a ruckus. There's too much this, and that. Okay? Well, if NASCAR doesn't come in, the current situation, which you're already complaining about, still exists exactly the way that it is. Okay? So you're not going to be happy. If NASCAR comes in, the noise gets helped in two spots. One, NASCAR has already agreed if we come here, we're going to build a huge sound barrier. Now, again, is that going to eliminate the sound of 40 race cars? Absolutely not. But I would assume there's enough technology in 2021 that they can drastically cut down the sounds of those race cars around that racetrack. Okay? Two, right now, you can me and you right now could put together a car and we could request to rent that track for a few $100s and we could go test right now. No problem. Any day of the week we wanted to at any time. As many days as we wanted to at any time. And NASCAR is trying to, if they step in, they're going to drastically limit the amount of times you can test. They'll probably do it where you can only do it one day a week, once every couple of weeks, these certain dates, and that's it. And so not only are you going to get a noise barrier, which is not going to be built otherwise, now you're going to get limited testing dates, which is not going to be limited otherwise. So there you go. And, everybody hates things until now there's events that you want to go to. Okay, well, what if the racetrack brings in Christmas lights like Charlotte Motor Speedway? I cannot tell you how many tens of thousands of people go to those Christmas lights every single year. I mean, it is a huge deal right there in Concord. I've been to it a couple of times. It's beautiful. It's fun. People enjoy it. They play movies. There's a village. I mean, it's awesome. They want to do things like that. They can have concerts. They can have events. They can be a bigger part of the community. And that's what they want to be. And that's what's crazy is it sounds like some of these people just aren't being told. I don't know if NASCAR and SMI and who all are not telling them the right information. But you would think if they knew that information, they would be okay with it. Because if NASCAR doesn't come in, they're going to get the same product they're already pissed about. And that's what's really frustrating is you wish you could just sit down these people and be like, I don't think you understand what is going on. You know what I mean?
It's just a matter of miscommunication, I believe, lack of information. I feel like if these people have this information, they hopefully just realize that NASCAR coming in, as crazy as it sounds, on the forefront, would even they talked about they're going to lower the amount, like there's not going to be as many races there are on the track anymore. And obviously, you said the sound barrier. It would do more help than harm. But these people just think that, if NASCAR comes, then it's going to be like, you're living next to a volcano while it erupts.
Right.
So it's just these people, I believe, need to be educated more. They need to learn more about, like the situation. And there just needs to be better communication.
And that's the big frustrating part, like we talked about, though, is just how do you, and we've seen this all over the place. How do you move to a place that has already had a track for over 100 years? And because you decided to move there and you couldn't handle the noise, there's been some people that want the track gone completely. And then you have people that just don't want any progress with it at all. Listen, I don't know the effect NASCAR has on communities. I have no clue. I'm sure back in the day it was huge. For some places, it still is huge. For some towns like Darlington, that is what fuels that city, is those 1 or 2 dates a year. That's what fueled a place like Rockingham, that 1 date a year. Nashville's not relying on NASCAR money to function, but you would feel like it would help the community. It brings people together. It probably provides jobs in the area because there's a lot of jobs that need to be filled day of. People can make money parking if that's something they want to do. I played money to park in people's yards back when my first ever race. My parents paid somebody $20, $30 to park in their yard. We walked right down to the racetrack. People can charge $30 a car to park, and you got 15 cars, and you're right there. You make $400, $500 just letting people park in your yard. And so, things like those I know it's crazy to think about, and you got to have a real parking plan, not people's front yards, but people just don't think all the way through. It's crazy. If they were to tell me, hey, we're going to build a racetrack 2 miles from your house, I'd be excited. But I'm also biased. I'm a racing fan. Actually, if we all know the history, Talladega was supposed to be built about 7 minutes away from me, but we had to have an area. But yeah, that's kind of where I feel in the situation. I feel like me and you are pretty close on this situation. I think everybody, now again, sometimes you got to check your bias. We are race fans. We're the ones that want to see them go there. We're the ones that want this to happen. So of course, we're gonna think any grievance is stupid. I'm cool if they bring up real grievances, but to sit there and tell me there's 5 functioning tracks within 20 miles, and to not know that NASCAR is actually going to help your cause. Both parties want the same thing. They just don't realize it. It's like when you talk to people about like people with guns, right? Like everybody wants sane people who can think to be able to own guns, but they don't realize it because they all point out things that are opposite that have really nothing to do with the center goal up here. But we can't agree. We can't allow ourselves to agree. So we're going to stay here. And that's the thing is everyone thinks NASCAR coming in, NASCAR is not weekly racing. NASCAR is very professionally ran. There's times we're in and there's times we're out. And that is it. NASCAR is a clean cut program these days. It's not just rednecks and beer and partying and cars happen to break out into a race. NASCAR is going to get in there, get out in a weekend and roll on. And they're going to maintain the track during the year. It's just like, look at Martinsville. You can't just – Martinsville – how Martinsville doesn't have weekly racing, I don't know. But, look, they don't. NASCAR limits things like that. I think if people that reside there would just kind of listen to someone like a Dale Earnhardt Jr. list things out. The problem is they have their mind made up, so they don't want to listen to anybody. But – to me, Dale Jr. has laid it out the best as possible because he taught me about the situation. I don't live within 200 miles of this place, but he taught me about it. They would realize they're going to get what they want because this track is going to be in operation regardless of what happens. So that pretty much sums up the situation. Is there anything else that you need to get off your chest with these people of Nashville?
Tell me where this Formula One track is. I want to go.
I know, me too. I want to go to an F1 race. We'll probably leave before the finish because, Lewis is going to have a 13-second lead. But, maybe this F1 track isn't even that long. Maybe it's like an F1 short track.
Yeah.
Bro, I want to see F1 on an oval. I want to see them go around Talladega.
That'd be fun.
What would that look like? I wonder how fast they go. They got to hit like 235.
Oh, they'll probably hit more than 235. Honestly, I'm going to say like 240.
I don't know. Are they faster than an Indy car?
I believe so. Yeah, they're faster because they're more aerodynamic.
But what's the kind of power plant like?
Well over 1,000.
Because IndyCar, I know IndyCar would probably hit 230, 235.
F1's like well over 1,000. I believe.
They might even hit more because they hit 230 at Indy, don't they?
Yeah.
So then, you might be looking at 245 in an IndyCar. Bro, I don't know what an F1 car would do.
Bro, where's this lady? I want to know where this track is.
Well, you should find who she is and call her up and say, hey, me, you, and Matt, we're going to bring Matt from Canada down here since, an F1 track in Nashville cuts off half the distance for Matt. He doesn't even have to go all the way to Texas anymore.
Or down to Miami.
Yeah, or he doesn't have to go to I forgot that is going to happen. So eventually they're going to have 2 American U.S. Grand Prix.
Yeah, but one's going to be running.
Are they going to race in Austin and Miami?
Yep, both. They haven't released the schedule yet, but it looks like it's going to be both.
So what's the Miami race going to be called? Because the other one's the U.S. Grand Prix.
The Miami Grand Prix. Stupid.
Anyways, hell, y'all might as well call it the Cuban Grand Prix. Oh man. All right.
Hey,
Well,
we
unless
got
you got
more than
anything
just
else,
Cubans here.
unless you got anything else to add, I hope you have fun at the dirt track for the first time. I believe you will. I'm prepared for you to text me on Saturday night. This is awesome.
I'm about to text you. I'm gonna have a beer in one hand. I'm gonna be like,
Dirt,
yo.
dude. And then hopefully, if it's like most short tracks, you can get like a whole bunch of food for like $12.
Hey, who knows? Maybe I just go crazy enough. I just go onto the track and I steal a car.
That's not going to happen because those rednecks will beat your ass. But I hope you have fun. Like I said, I work at two dirt tracks, and it's a lot of fun. Over the last couple of years, I'd much rather go to a local dirt race than a local asphalt race. Now, nationally, obviously, I still watch NASCAR over everything. I really don't watch anything else. But yeah, I hope you have fun. I'm going to be tired as hell, but I always have fun. Tomorrow night at Livonia Speedway in Georgia. Saturday night at Lawrence County Speedway in Lawrence, South Carolina. You enjoy it, my friend, on Twitter. Follow him at Motor Minister. Obviously, I'm at NASCAR_opinion, all lowercase. And with that said, we will see you next week.